I know that you gargle before meetings that make you nervous. And I smell mint.
In Season 3, Episode 7 of Suits, Lewis finds Harold as a witness in the mock trial for the ownership of Nigel's cat, Mikado. Lewis grows furious and confronts Harold, but Harold proves to be a surprisingly able opponent. How will Lewis handle this unexpected challenge? Let's find out. After Nigel cross-examines Harold as his witness, Rachel takes the role of Lewis's attorney and questions Harold's motives by asking if his tenure at the firm was fruitful. When he defends himself, Rachel asks if it's true he once failed to deliver a motion to the court, believing they were closed due to inclement weather. Guess what his reply was? Someone told me it was a snow day. Rachel then presses him about whether he had ever given opposing counsel a copy of their trial strategy. Harold justifies by saying he thought it was part of the disclosure. Rachel harshly brings up his other mistake, which was leaving a zero off of the Hopkins settlement, which nearly cost the client $900,000. Feeling exposed, Harold reveals that no one was supposed to know about that mistake, to which Rachel snaps back and states it was because Lewis Litt covered for him. What's his defense? He says that Lewis mocked him, but Rachel corrects him, pointing out that Lewis kept it private and allowed him to fix it, which helped him learn from his mistakes. The conversation shifts as Rachel asks Harold if he now works at Bratton Gold and if he is happy with his position, to which Harold confirms. Rachel inquires whether Bratton Gold knew he would have been trained by Lewis Litt. His reply, "It came up." Rachel continues to state that despite Lewis being tough on him, Harold benefited from his mentorship and secured a huge job. Harold, however, complains that Lewis was mean to him. Rachel responds by saying this isn't about how Lewis treated him, but about how Lewis treated his cat. In the very next episode, Lewis fires away at his paralegals, beginning by shouting at one of them, mentioning that he had spent 2 months, 5 days, and 13 hours under Nigel's guidance, resulting in numerous inadequate motions. Did he stop? No. He continued by shouting at each of them and stopped by saying that they needed to thank him and God for allowing them to continue working. Rachel then tries to defend them, but Lewis criticizes the firm's work under Nigel's leadership as pathetic. Lewis also expresses frustration over having to endure judgment while his character was attacked, with no one helping him. Rachel reminds Lewis that the firm ruled in his favor and chose him over Nigel, but with his voice cracking with emotion, he says they made him give up Mikado for them. Rachel points out that he is just transferring his anger over Mikado to the firm and emphasizes that they didn't put him in this position. Lewis agrees that they don't deserve this treatment and whispers that he knows who actually placed him in this position. And who is that? Yep, Harold. He then makes a sudden appearance at Harold's office. Harold rhetorically asks him if it's about his trial. Lewis explodes, demanding to know why Harold did that to him, to which he plays innocent and explains that he had no choice as he was being subpoenaed. Harold argued that it was a mock trial and he could have easily refused to participate. Harold then demands to know what Lewis wants from him. Lewis shouts back, "I wanna yell at you," but Harold says he can't do that anymore because he fired him. Harold then asks if the whole confrontation was about his firing. Gunderson reveals that when he found out about Harold's trial, he called Nigel and volunteered, which made Lewis feel deeply betrayed. Lewis emphasized firing him was business, but bringing up the death of his cat, that was personal. Harold then explains that he made him take care of Mikado despite him being allergic, which would have killed him. He then argues that when the cat died, Lewis never told him that it wasn't his fault, and then fired him in front of his best friend, Mike, making it very personal. Later, Mike meets Harold on the street and greets him by saying, "It's good to see you." Harold gets emotional and replies, "I thought you were my friend." Harold then accuses Mike of pretending to save his job when in reality he hung him out to dry. Mike admits that it's true and regrets it, saying he didn't mean to hurt him. Harold angrily says he doesn't want to hear any excuses because Mike had to choose between himself and his friend, and he chose himself. Mike defends by admitting his mistake, but says he also got him a job at a powerful firm, thinking he deserves a second chance. Harold softens slightly, acknowledging that Mike got him the job. Mike genuinely apologizes and states that he trusted Harold with a significant lawsuit. Why? Thinking he was competent enough. Mike then asks Harold to move on. Now, Rachel informs Lewis that their client, Fairfield Computers, is being sued, and Harold is involved. Lewis defensively asks how it's his fault. Rachel explains that Harold, the attorney of record, sent a settlement offer. Lewis angrily says Harold wants to pick a fight with him and will regret it. Rachel points out that he might have started the fight. Lewis childishly asks whose side Rachel is on, and she tries to diffuse the tension. Lewis then makes another appearance at Harold's office. Harold is shocked to find Lewis sitting in his chair again. Harold then notifies Lewis that he should be waiting in the conference room. Lewis defiantly warns that no one sues him and notifies him that he doesn't need to wait around. Harold confidently responds that he does because now he works at a huge firm with power to do so, suggesting they negotiate a settlement unless Lewis can't handle it. But Lewis taunts him by asking him to stop embarrassing himself in front of his mother, pointing to a frame of his mother. Harold tries to stand his ground, saying, "You don't intimidate me anymore, Lewis." Lewis points out he knows Harold well, noting that Harold gargles before meetings. That makes him nervous, indicating he smells mint during this interaction. Lewis then insists he won't agree to certain paragraphs in the settlement. Lewis then uses a sarcastic tone and mockingly states that Harold's clients will stand for whatever he gives them. Pretty badass, huh? Harold pleads for paragraph 9, which Lewis agrees to give as he finds it meaningless, wanting to show what happens when Harold goes after Lewis Litt. Gunderson argues that Lewis's logic doesn't make sense. Lewis compares his actions to mob movies, where one is left to tell the tale. Harold points out that paragraphs can't talk. Lewis, feeling triumphant, orders the agreement to be typed up and not to see Harold's face again, and walks out of the office. James then mutters about Carrot Top being an underrated comedian. In the next scene, Rachel notices the tension and asks if everything is okay. Lewis tries to lighten the mood, claiming to use tactics from his handbook, which will never be published because he doesn't share tactics. Rachel points out that whatever tactic he used on Harold did not work, as he isn't caving. Lewis insists Harold will give him everything he wants. Rachel explains that the client called, revealing a loophole in the contract Harold sent over that leaves them open to punitive damages. Lewis urgently tells Rachel to get the contract back and renegotiate it. Rachel exclaims that Harold pulled one over on him. Gunderson orders her not to say that out loud and to call Harold up to set an appointment. Rachel informs him that Harold insists on coming there and is on his way. Lewis then finds Harold in his office chair. Harold goes on to mock Lewis by quoting The Breakfast Club. Lewis couldn't believe what he had just heard and snaps back by saying that Julie Andrews is a national treasure. Harold suggests the client might be better off with her, to which Lewis counters by listing legal actions he intends to take, feeling dominant. Harold, unimpressed, points out that none of them will work. Lewis says they may not work on the case, but they will work on him. Harold, confused, asks what Lewis is talking about. Lewis explains that Harold may win in the end, but it won't justify him spending all his time on this instead of his other assignments. Harold questions whether Lewis would do that to him, to which Lewis answers that he's doing it for Bratton Gold, and Harold will be laughed out of there, as he was at the previous firm. giving him an ultimatum to back out of the lawsuit. Later, Rachel intervenes, asking why Lewis hates Harold so much. Lewis defensively insists he doesn't hate Harold. Rachel points out that she's never seen Lewis be as mean to anyone else. Lewis later confesses that Harold reminds him of his childhood struggles in gym class, where he was laughed at for failing to climb a rope, making Harold his failure. Rachel gently points out that Harold is succeeding by going after his career, and Lewis is just dragging him back down. In the end, Lewis orders Rachel to send back Harold's original offer marked accepted and declares he never wanted this spoken of again, exhausted from the confrontation. And there you have it. Like and subscribe for more. Did you enjoy watching this? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.